Hi everyone, welcome to the second Family Creative Learning online workshop. I'm Saskia.
And I'm Rika Rose, and we're from the Family Creative Learning team at the MIT Media Lab. Welcome to our workshop 2, where we'll be discussing recruiting and facilitating. And before we jump in, we wanted to kind of review these workshops and also last week's workshops, especially for anyone who wasn't able to join us last week.
Which is totally okay.
Yeah.
So if you're new to this platform, this is a pre-recorded video, but we're here with you in the chat. So if you have any questions, you can chat them to us during the video, and we're here live to respond to them.
Yeah, and we encourage chatting while the video is going on. We'll be answering questions or anything, we're commenting on things as they go on.
Cool.
So what happened last week?
So to quickly recap a few great things that we saw in the Google Plus community this week. William shared some really amazing photos of his space, including the families working on projects together, crafts that they were doing, the materials that they were using, so that's definitely something to check out. There were also a few people who posted very specific questions. Joanne talked a bit about very specific things she's thinking about in her own space, in her own practice, including ideas about design journals, about food, some specific stuff about whether or not to serve coffee or tea, which we were kind of like, oh, that's cool. We haven't thought about serving coffee or tea, so this is great for idea generating. And one more thing that stood out to us was Jennifer talking about her family's experiencing failure and success on their own, which kind of ties into some of the stuff that we'll be talking about in facilitating today.
Cool. Well, so speaking of facilitating, that's one of the topics that we'll be covering. We'll be covering two, so recruiting families and facilitating and supporting your facilitation teams. So we found that these are actually two very important topics because it involves the people that you'll be engaging, but also the people that you'll be working with to put this together. And so we're also going to explore those two topics in a different format today compared to what we did last week. Last week we did kind of this pre-recorded video that you're watching now. But instead, and then we did the breakout groups. But what we'll do instead is we have two pre-recorded videos, and we're going to have two breakout groups, one for each topic. So actually, we'll talk a bit for another 10 minutes about recruiting families. Then we'll do a breakout group around the families to talk about your families, how you might recruit them. And then we'll come back to this on Hangout room, and we'll talk about facilitating and do another breakout group.
So we'll be jumping a bit more.
Yeah, it's an experiment. As we said before, this is something that we're exploring and trying out. So we really look forward to hearing, what has been helpful to you or how we could do better next week as well. So let's jump in.
So first we're going to be talking a bit about recruiting families. And thinking about who your families are. So we'd love for you guys to just take 2 minutes in the chat to write a bit about the families that you'll be working with, who they are, what they're like, and maybe some of the questions that you have moving into this section about talking about recruiting families.
Thanks everyone for sharing your more information about your families. We really think this is such an important step to understand the families that you'll be working with, and taking steps to get to know them, whether it's talking to your community organization or kind of talking to families directly to just kind of understand what are their interests, where are they coming from, what's their experience like, And this will be valuable in helping you think about how you might need to recruit families and also adapt the workshops for them. And the families that we've seen have really ranged from age from 4 to someone in their late 60s, and they're retired, and their computer experience has really varied from someone who is double clicking for the first time to someone who does GIS data tracking. And the dynamics between families can really vary as far as how they communicate, from using language to body language, or sometimes shouting, which is also fine. But yeah, this is getting to know your families has been really important for us, an important step for us as well.
And one question that we got asked in a breakout session last week is what to do with younger siblings that might come in either expectedly or unexpectedly. And some things that we've done in the past are to set up kind of like a craft corner for them to work independently on their own projects, maybe next to their parents. And something to consider maybe is daycare, including that in the workshops too. But yeah, if younger kids come, there's definitely ways to accommodate them.
Yeah, we definitely try to be open to kind of all the family configurations that families can come in. And so part of that is sometimes accommodating the much younger children. And also, we mentioned this in the guide, but the workshops are especially well suited for kids from 7 to 12. That's something we forgot to mention.
So speaking of those kids, what are some strategies that you've used to recruit families?
Yeah, so this has been a challenging step, especially if your organization doesn't necessarily have family programming, or families are not used to coming to your site for activities. If you do, that's great, because the FCL just builds on top of that. But if not, you might have to do a lot of kind of heavy lifting to bring families in. And that could be working with different family liaisons or other community leaders who work with families, who can be an advocate and a spokesperson to help you recruit families. One important step that we find is recruiting through the kids first, and making sure that the kids understand and are already jazzed about participating in the workshops. One time we didn't do that, and it was kind of awkward when the kids came. Their expectations were so misaligned with what we were trying to do. Another thing is Franklin. He's our community partner for so many years now. He's in the chat, and he probably has so many ideas, because for us as a community partner, he's the person who's interacted the most with families during recruitment, and we work together to brainstorm strategies. So he probably has a lot to say. But one thing he's always told me, and he's learned over time, is how important follow-up is. So after you've kind of engaged with the kids and gotten them excited, to follow up with their families, and to follow up again, and follow up again, and then to follow up some more, whether through phone calls or running into them as they're picking up their kids. He couldn't emphasize that enough, how important follow-up is as a step. And one other challenge is how to talk about the workshops. It's kind of funny. What is Scratch and Mickey Mickey? They're kind of funny names.
Yeah.
And also not, creating things with computers might not be part of their everyday practice with computers. So that's also a challenge for us. And I'm curious how you are thinking of kind of pitching this to your families. We've often pitched it as a great time to hang out with your family. There's free food. You'll do some fun things with computers, and you'll learn something new. But yeah, we're very curious how you might do it.
So another question that we often get is, once you've gotten your families through the door, how do you keep them there? Which is huge. And we think that kind of starts with the foundation of trust and respect, and showing families that you respect them, and that you're establishing a trust relationship with them is so huge. And one of the stories that Rick Rose told me when we first started working together that really stuck out in my mind was a parent who told Rick Rose that she continued to come back to the workshops because she felt like the facilitators really cared about her and her family. And so finding ways to build that relationship, I think, is one of the most powerful parts of family creative learning workshops.
Yeah, and we'll actually talk about supporting relationship building in the facilitating topic next. And just one other thing to add to retaining families is, I said this before, but I'll say it again, but following up is so valuable. After that first workshop or second workshop, calling them again during the week and, you know, calling them and say, like, we enjoyed having you at the workshops. Like, we saw you do these great things and you're doing a great job so far. Like, we hope to see you again next week. And then calling them the night before, maybe calling them even the day of, you know, whatever you think will work. But kind of following it up and keeping the program in the family's radar is really important.
And I think that also shows that you care about them enough to continue to follow up, and that you're excited for them to be there. They should be excited to be there, and it just gets everybody pumped up.
Cool.
Great. So before we kind of go into our breakout sessions, which we'll explain in a second, just some key takeaways from our discussion for you to keep in mind are, first, to really, really get to know your families. We can't stress how important this is to just kind of establish those relationships. And second, to start with the kids when you're recruiting, and then follow up, and then follow up, and then follow up some more as many times as you need to. And the third thing is to build trust and relationships with your families.
Cool. So we're going to do our breakouts. And as we said before, we're only going to break out briefly, and we're going to come back. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the next topic, facilitating. So this is something we're trying out this session, and let us know what you think about it. So what we'll do is this video is going to end, and then the sessions are going to open up, and you'll join the sessions that are there, which have our names. And then after you join them, you'll be in a Google Hangout, and you'll talk to us in real time. After 15 minutes, we're going to come back to this room, or to this web page. So don't close this page. We're going to come back here to talk about the next topic.
So we're jumping around a little bit today.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of jumping around, you can actually jump around between the rooms. So even though you decide you join me, for example, and you're like, well, I think I started wanting to hear Franklin's perspective, in his community, just like, it's okay to leave the room and join Franklin's room.
We won't be offended.
Yeah. All right. Great. We'll see you soon.
Okay.